Okwoma biomesiede. Okwoma biomesiede o. Oame okwo si. Ọlọ́rọ̀mà okwo si o. Ọba ẹwà ẹ. Dami o. Wẹ̀rí owó pa Utan tán. Orí owó pa ye gelegele. Utan no eviarogiso eoriugiamie. Once again, brothers and sisters, this is J.R. Sydney for the Sydney Table Talk Show, the Stts. Yeah, it's been a long time I've not been on air, but usually of me, I do not come broadcasting where there are no informations to be broadcasted. Today, I want to reply to one video that was recently published by one Mr. Olakoko on behalf of the Oba of Benin or the Benin Traditional Council. My first submission to Mr. Olakoko is this. Mr. Olakoko, you do not have the academic capacity or the mental capacity to sort of entertain the public with issues of that of the Edo State government and the Ogiame of Utanta. First, you must understand, the Ogiame has no problem with the Oba of Benin. The Ogiame only wrote a letter to the state government demanding that the Gazette MNSL of 1968 be implemented. This is where the whole problem started. The Ogiame has no problem with the Oba of Benin. It's the Oba of Benin who is fomenting trouble with the Ogiame. So having said that, let me move to the theme of the day. In your video, it was quite noticed that you were ill prepared as you started talking rubbish. Obaseki cancels this, Obaseki cancels that. You knew nothing about what took place. You see, Mr. Olakoko, probably it's better for me to speak Benin with you. Tell me, Mr. Olakoko, why is was to be honest with you, because as a blogger, like a social media agri public igua, the first thing you do is to get some basic information about the theme of discussion. But unfortunately, you jumped onto the social media with the false pretense that somebody somewhere from your family or from the Oba's family phoned you. That is Imperial Majesty Rich Arisco Semege JP Ogiame of Utanta is creating problem for the Ogiame family. If you do not understand what majority means in English, let me tell you. In the family of the Ogiame, who are the custodians of the Ogiso's dynasty, 90% of us are behind the Ogiame of Utata, Rich Arisco Osemege JP. We are solidly behind him. Now, having said that, unfortunately, like I said, you are ill prepared because some of the arguments you raised are arguments that we've already addressed. Talking about the paternal family of HIM Arisco Osemege Ogiame, we have addressed this issue. We even called a press conference when the ESL of Benin, Samigbe, tried to talk rubbish when he came with his Benin traditional bullshit and started saying that the Ogiame, Richard Risco Osemege Ogiame, is not from the Ogiame's family, that it is his mother who is from Ogiame's family. We called a press conference where we addressed the word. We told them precisely the maternal and the paternal relations of the Ogiame. In brief, Arisco JP, the Ogiame of Utata, his maternal home is the ESL of Udo, which, literally, we can say that his maternal home partially comes from the Oba's family. But his paternal home is a great-great-great-grandson of Ogiame Ikunwe. You understand? His mother is not from the Ogiso's dynasty. His father is from the Ogiso's dynasty. And that is why he was selected to become the new Ogiamie after Oba Erediawa and his son, Bobizwa, the late 4-1, what is his name? What is his name? The Manatik Boba, who was the 4-1, I've forgotten. Ekato. If you want to know what happened to Osarabo Kunogai, who was then the Ogiamie of Utanta, ask Bobizwa. Ask Nusaka Isehure. Ask the current Ewari. They are responsible for his disappearance. It has nothing to do with the current Ogiamie of Utanta. And you must be well informed that the relationship between the Ogiamie of Utanta then, who was Osarabo Okunogai, and the current Ogiamie, was not so close to have even necessitated his actions against the then Ogiamie. And again, if the Oba of Benin had known that the current Ogiamie of Utanta, Rich Arisco Sevege JP, was from the Ogiamie's family, they would never have allowed his political success in Edo South. Because Arisco JP was a strong man of PDP. He was a board member of PDP. He was a board member of PDP. If they had known, because what they have been doing over the years is to ensure that no Ogiamie rises. Because Osemege was not very close to the family and he was using Osemege, so they never knew. They had no minimal idea that he could one day become very, very important or strategic in the Ogiso Evian royal dynasty. Otherwise, they would not have allowed him to get close to where he got in politics. So like I said, if your people are looking for those who are responsible for the disappearance of Osarabo Kunogai, the late Chief Ekato Eduwiyofo, that 4-1, that idiot, no let me wiwa. Bobizwa no let me wiwa. This current one no let me wiwa. And Osaka is they know what happened to Osarabo Kunogai. Not Arisco Ogiamie JP, not him. These are the people who know, and these are the people we should throw questions to. What happened to Osarabo Okunogai? Because you remember there was a statement that at the time Nosaka Isekure made when he had problems with this useless man, this cocaine addict who calls himself Robbie Siniridewa, aka Ewari. He said, a time will come when he, Ewari, will understand that it was him and some other people that fortified his late father, Erediawa. What they were fortifying Erediawa for is left for Nusaka Isekure to answer. Because as a traditional ruler, his role was well defined. Was well defined in the chieftaincy laws. There was nothing to fortify. The only thing they fortified was the disappearance of people in order to steal lands that does not belong to them. Now, Olakoko, having said this, I saw that you are repeating the video of Izoduwa. Unfortunately, Izoduwa continues to claim that he attended a prestigious university. Well, the university might be prestigious, but I don't think that Izoduwa has a prestigious brain. Izoduwa is just a stupid human being. Because a simple question that I have thrown to Izoduwa in the last 2-3 years, he has refused to answer. 6 minus 1 Izoduwa. 6 minus 1. Now, these are factors. Let me remember you, it's an LCM. Oramiya Oduduwa was the 4th Oni of Ife. Oramiya was the 6th Oni of Ife. So, can you please explain to us, Mr. Izoduwa, how the 6th Oni of Ife was then given to your forefathers by the 1st Oni of Ife? Because we're talking of, it's 5 generations difference. 5 generations. Okay? To explain it further for you, Mr. Izoduwa and Mr. Olakoko, Damio Kakabo, because you are the person who is stupid, who continue to repeat what you do not have the minimum idea of. In Benin, we have what we call Omiwu, that is the direct lineage. Then we have Eye, that is the grandchild. Then we have Ihehe, That is the great grandchild. Then we have Esakbayagode. That is the great great grandchild. Then we now have the other one called Abionona. That is the great 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 grandchild. Oramiyan was the Rabionona of Oduduwa. All right. So how Oduduwa gave Oramiyan, if Oramiyan was the Rabionona of Oduduwa, how he gave Oramiyan to Benin people is something that these people need to explain. But anyway, they are not going to explain it because most of these people are people who have taken oath before the Oba of Benin. Their families have been placed under curse. So they are not even in the position to question those they are representing for certain explanations. So when we come out with facts, they cannot go and question those they represent to give them further facts because they have been placed under curse. According to the oath, which we have all seen, he said, if you are even present when they are talking ill of the Oba of Benin, your generations born unborn will perish. So one of the reasons why these people actually will continue to say one word that has no meaning. All right? Now, Mr. Olakoko, I want to warn you the way you pronounce Ogiamie. Ogiamie Irebo, who was the first Ogiamie, was Ogiso Irebo after his father Ogiso Evia. Now, it is called Ogiame. If you are not educated or if you are not a Benin person, it's understandable. But if you are a Benin person and you continue to call your father that stupidity, then Ira Makokwese. And let me ask you, Mr. Lakoko, can you give us your connection to the Igodomigodo kingdom? Because men of Wegwana, I am talking to you because I'm a representative of the Ogiso's royal dynasty. My names are Johnny Raphael Sidney. My mother is a great-great-grandchild of Ogiamie Edogiawirie. You see, I have a connection. There's a lineage. So I was well taught the history of Igodomigodo because I grew up in Benin. My father is from Rivers State, but I grew up in Benin. I was well educated. I was living almost inside the palace of the Ogiamie. And I had the opportunity to see Oba Akenzwa twice visit the Ogiamie's palace. So you guys are not going to come out today and begin to tell me rubbish and expect me to listen to your bullshit. Because Erediawa had succeeded in brainwashing all of you. Of course, most of the families you see today supporting the Oba of Benin, their families are benefactors of the illegal activities of the late Oba Erediawa. Okay? We'll put that aside. I have said, Mr. Lakoko, if you can tell me your connection to Igodomigodo, that will be very, very good of you. But if you cannot tell me, then shut up your mouth. I would advise you, I think you are a gossip blogger. You had better glue yourself to that of gossiping. The issue of Ogiamie and the Edo State government, I would always want to put it that way, the Ogiamie and the Edo State government, which the Oba of Benin is trying to interfere, is a strategic question. If you want to blog about it, you have to get yourself well informed. So that if you want to tell lies, you must study the lies very well. Not just jump in there and say, who are you? Cannot you way? You are all idiots. The issue you were showing, all those videos were repeating. Those same people you saw there, they have come back to beg the family. We called a press conference. You see what the Benin television was there. It was well recorded. So don't drag us back. All right? They have all apologized. And because as our family, we are very, very diplomatic, and because the of Utanta, HIM Arisco Osemegi, is a diplomatic man, he accepted the apologies. And then everything was broadcasted on the television. And that is a bygone. We don't want to be dragged backward. If anybody tells you anything about this, the tussle between the Ogiamie and the Oborobini, do a lot of research, get well informed before dashing to your camera. I know we don't pay for these things, they are free. Okay, but before you insult yourself and become stupid, get a lot of information. Use your common sense. I equally saw another video that we were parading, on that very particular video where Izoduwa continued to repeat, if there's anybody who can tell him at the time when Evian was a king, he will give that person 2 million. It's unfortunate that, like I said, Izoduwa said he attended the prestigious university, but he has a useless brain. Jacob Igarewa simply, remember this, common sense, wrote it. Ogiso Owodo was survived by his younger brother Evian, who later became the Ogiso. Any attempt by anybody to turn Evian to an administrator is an act of stupidity. You cannot turn somebody to an administrator when you were not there. The Oba who is trying to say Ogiso, that Evian was an administrator, he was not there in Migodo when Evian became the Ogiso. So how could he have known? We're talking about history. When you look at Benin's history, you don't need too much volumes of books to understand. When you listen, in the oral history of Benin, when we were growing up, the oral history of the Oba of Benin was well told. We all knew the oral history. And from the oral history, you can understand that the Oba of Benin became the Oba of Benin. It was during the colonial period. The Oba of Benin, before colonial period, was in Uselu. He was the Oba of Uselu. In fact, in Edo South, he was recognized as Ogienekwe. He wasn't known as, he was called Ogienekwe. So if actually they are right, and when they completely say, by 1897, the Oba of Benin paraded 300,000 foot soldiers, 1 million foot soldiers, I am not going to argue with them. But my question is this. What happened in 1897 was a different story. The Oba of Benin was captured in 6 days. The Oba of Benin could not mobilize Edo South to defend him. He was captured in 6 days. And the Oba of Benin today is even claiming that even the Ishans, Edo Central, I don't know, they were under Benin Empire by 1897. So one wonders, by 1897, this man who ruled an empire could not mobilize these three, the current Edo state, all right? The current Edo state. If he is even claiming that some part of the Delta was part of the empire. Now, he could not, as a powerful man who ruled an empire by 1897, he could not mobilize these people to fight and defend him. Very strange. The people in Oriomo, Umode, and Ibobaoga never knew that there was a war between the Oba and the British people. In fact, it is well documented that when the British came through Sokomba village, which is now in Ibobaoga local government, they made no resistance. Nobody fought them. No, because nobody knew they were coming to fight. You understand? Nobody fought them. So where the empire, this empire making noise, that brings us against another question. Oh, the Oba of Benin dug a moat in Benin. The Oba of Benin did not dig any shit. Those moats were valleys. There were valleys created thousands of years for rivers that were flowing from the southwest, and they emptied themselves into the Niger Delta. It's very simple. When you look at all the moats in Benin, they are all close to rivers now. Some of these rivers they are dried. Water never get to them anymore because of development. People began to block the water channels. Look at the one at where you have this motor park at Downsing, where you have Media College. There's a moat there. That moat was conducting the water that used to come to Isekere, where you have a river. All right? Over the years, that was the end. Come to third is secular. You will see that behind Edo College, the moat is running around there. There's a river there, and that same river was That's the river you call Ikpoba River that was flowing from Okoro, all the way from Ovia River to Okoro, down to Ikpoba, then moving behind to St. Saviour through Abiama. There was a water valley, which we call the moat. So the Yoruba never dug anything, because otherwise, where are these instruments? Today in Egypt, we are still finding even instruments that were used, all right, that were used for the pyramids. They're still finding some of the instruments. Where are the instruments that the Yoruba of Benin used for the digging of the moat? And there is nowhere in oral history in Benin that the Yoruba of Benin dug the moats. No way, no way. What we have in oral history in Benin is how the various Obas conducted themselves so badly that they ended up so badly. It was always quick succession. So when look at if you look at the reigning period of an average Oba, then one would conclude, how long will it take to dig such a moat? It takes a lot of years, and none of the Oba reigned that sufficient period to be able to create such a project. It's not true that Oba Benin dug moats, Oba Benin built walls that is more than that of China. Please stop hailing this motherfucker. The only thing the Oba of Benin knows is how to sell lands. Under Oba Erediawa and his son, Edo South has lost over 300,000 hectares of lands. I want somebody to go and investigate. Under Erediawa alone, Edo South lost over 200,000 hectares of land. Under his son, we're already going to buy 100,000. That's exactly what they know to do. They don't create they don't even have companies to employ people. The only thing they know is to keep the people poor. In fact, look at the names. Aigwoba Simi, nobody argues with the Oba. Aigwoba Simi, and when you go back to the judiciary and look at the registry, you find out that Erediawa had over 136 cases in courts in Benin over attempt to steal lands that don't belong to him. He lost a lot of these cases. All right. I face up bad. These are all insults. How people can still wake up and begin to say they are slaves in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I face up bad. It's an insult. It's an insult. It is like the Sultan of Sokoto will say, nobody's going to be richer than the Sultan of Sokoto. It's an insult, Anyway, let us move forward. Now, the first thing, another thing that we must put into our mind is that every time you hear them say, Ogyomba, who wants to be a friend to a drug addict? Who wants to be a friend to somebody who uses human beings for sacrifice? Who wants to be a friend to a man in 2025 is still going out to place curses on people? Look at the other day, Zodua. Because he said Zodua toiled the ebe. No. He asked his native doctors, his useless native doctors who have no mystical power, to place curse on his Zodua. That is what he did. He did not even invite this young man who has been busy defending him to his palace and say, look, my son, such a thing is not allowed. If you want anything, you must ask. Rather, he asked his native doctors who cannot kill a fly to place curse on Izodua. And Izodua is still there. Stupid as he is, still praising him. All right? Then, that having been said, I want to equally make another clarification. He said, Obaseki cancelled the case. Obaseki did not cancel any case. Obaseki's intervention was to save Edo State government from the case that the Ogiamie filed. We had filed a huge damage case against the Edo State government. Obaseki wanted a peaceful settlement out of court. So Obaseki did not cancel any case. The case, like we all know, in brief, when the Ogiamie wrote a letter to then governor of the state, Adaso Shomole, asking Oshomole and presenting Oshomole with a copy of a valid gazette which recognizes the Ogiamie as the competent chieftaincy tool for Benin City local government in 1968. Oshomole started playing politics. We should wait. He was going to get back to us. We should wait. So while he was playing his anking panking game, the Ogiamians, as usual, based on tradition, they sat down and then they proclaim Arisco as the new Ogiami. Now, the Oba of Benin said that he has power to determine who becomes the Ogiami. I don't know how you have power to determine who becomes the Ogiami. I don't know where it is written. I don't actually know. The Oba just came up with this fictitious information, trying to fool himself and those around him. The Ogiamie does not need the Oba of Benin for installation. Rather, it's the Oba, it's the other way around, the Oba who needs the Ogiamie for installation. And that is the Ekekwa Treaty. Okay? So, in brief, the Ogiamie was arrested. They arrested him, they came up with all sorts of manipulations, not wanting to grant bail to him. But at the end of the day, we filed a case at the High Court, and the High Court just granted bail to him. So, they were not satisfied with that bail because the High Court judge, they had filed a motion seeking that the High Court does not have jurisdiction to hear the case that we filed. But when the High Court judge told them that he has jurisdiction, they now went to the Court of Appeal for the High Court not to hear the case. So when we got to the Court of Appeal, in brief again, the Court of Appeal judgment shows that corruption is highly persistent in the judiciary. The Chief Judge, let me quote him just in 2 lines, like I said, always in brief. He said, the MSNL of 1960, that is the Gazette of the Ogiamie, is still a valid document, right? He said, to my humble self, this was his own statement, to my humble self, that Gazette was a valid document. But that we are coming after 38 years. Therefore, he ordered for Arisco to be tried criminally. The problem here was that they had problem with Arisco. They hated him. They hated him. They felt that he was too bold. But they forgot that he was a prince of the Ogiso's family. So what we did, we took the case to the Supreme Court. When we got to the Supreme Court, before the Supreme Court could hear the case, Obaseki now said, okay, let's come back home and settle this matter. So Obaseki asked us to withdraw the case from the Supreme Court. In exchange, he will withdraw the criminal charges. This is what happened. So for anybody to come out and say Obaseki cancelled, Obaseki did not cancel anything. Obaseki only did what an intelligent man would have done in his own position. Now, that aside. Then again, he said, Obaseki is building palace for the Ogiamie. Olakoko, Ezuo wakpopuwe. Ezuo wakpopuwe. Like I said, keep to your gossip blogging. Anything that is strategic and fundamental, like this case of the Ogiamie and the Oba of Benin. Don't you see people like Captain Osanomo, how he died miserably? He died miserably. You know how many native doctors who went and placed course on Arisco, they all died miserably. Never those who work with. What me to think about now? He dead one. It's a small boy. Walking and he's going, but he doesn't know yet. He doesn't know. He's been, the cancer has already penetrated his body. And he's going. He doesn't know. He begins to feel that he's very powerful. But very soon you will hear, Etonio Odoyo. If you're not about because Ogiamie is a representative of the Ogiso. And that is a Treaty. The only reason why they ran from the Ekiopaga Treaty was because of that. Because from the Ekiopaga Treaty, you will see who is the Ogiso and who is not Ogiso. The Ogiabie is the Ogiso. It's very clear. Because when somebody says, oh, Ogiame Oba Bini defeated Ogiame, like according to Izoduwa is fantastic when he's telling his fabulous, stupid stories. Now, he defeated Ogiame and the treaty was reached. And that treaty has been there for 700 years. Now, anybody who knows the Oba of Benin would have thought that if there was a treaty, it means that that treaty would have favored the Oba of Benin since he was the one who won the war. Therefore, the Oba of Benin would have preferred keeping that treaty to prove to the people of Nigeria, if not Benin, to the people of Nigeria, that he actually defeated Ogiame. But the reverse was the case. The Oba of Benin ran away after 700 years of the treaty. So you see, that is why I say Izoduwa could have attended a prestigious university, but Izoduwa is a motherfucker with his empty brain. Empty brain. Another issue that you addressed, the Olakoko, that you were showing again was, you said, oh, some of the Ogiame family, they sued Arisco. No way. Those are all bygone. Those are stories that they don't understand why they are gone. They are very, very united now. Those who are not united are just a fraction. They could have been maybe 0.5%. But majority of the Ugamis who matters, they are all behind the rich risk of 7K JP, the Ugame of Utata. All right. Now, Erediawa, one of the biggest thieves that I've ever known in my life. When he became the Oba of Benin, he tried to take away the house of the then Oba of Benin, Zeyamu. Why? Because that house was a colonial quarter for the colonial master. But when the colonial master was leaving, and since Izeyamu worked for him, he gave the house to Izeyamu probably at a very, very low rate. Erediawa would come in 1979, wanted to steal that house from Izeyamu, and they had problems for several years. Okay? These are some of the nasty things that Erediawa was doing. Piffering with lands that does not belong to him. Okay? And there is this other issue, the way people are saying that, I go back this. I begin to ask these people, have they lived in Benin? Do they actually know the story of Benin proper? Ere Tony Kabaka, his grandfather, Iranokwa, honor Roaye Diawa Butovekio, but that is, let me say it in English. The grandfather of Tony Kabaka pushed the mother of Erediawa at Oba Market. She fell down. Now, if the Oba of Benin was so powerful, let us be very honest with ourselves. If this man was so powerful in the 50s, when this thing happened, or in the 60s, Tony Kabaka's grandfather would have been sacrificed or would have been killed. But nothing happened. The man pushed Erediawa's mother, and nothing happened. Nothing. Okay? Now, look at the Mr. Big at Sapele Road, belonging to my late uncle Tifesi Mokba, the Olakoko of Ronigbe. Erediawa wanted to equally take over that land, but my uncle dragged him to court, and he lost. My uncle later sold the land to UAC or UTC, or I think it's UAC, the people who owns Mr. Big. He now sold the land to them. Look, my advice is, Mr. Olakoko, Ed, you know where you've been there. If no man can, well, because the issue of the Oba of Benin, the Ogiame, and the Edo State government is beyond your understanding. I have to be honest with you. Before you can get into that issue, you must inform yourself properly. Otherwise, you remain a fool forever, Olakoko. A gossip in Wewaoni is good for you, but when we come to fundamental and strategic issues, They are beyond your mental capacity, Olakoko. They are beyond. Ogiso Evian reigned, yes, it was a reality. There was Ogiso Evian and his son Ogiso Rebo, who became the Ogiamie of Utanta. You know, before the Ekiopa Treaty, no Oba had any say in Benin or Igodo Migodo. That was why Oba Ewedo came to the Ogiamie and pleaded for a treaty, so as to give him a section of Benin to rule. And the Ogiamie, seeing that Oliha and the rest, Oliha Nogele and the rest, were ganging against him, decided to give their territory to the Oba. That was how a Ekiopa Treaty was enacted. So for anybody now to come out and think that just because the Obas were lucky to have gone to school and because Benin City was under Western region and the Western region government that was ruled or fortunately enough by the Yorubas gave more priority and preference to their brother, the Oba of Uselu. They turned the Oba of Uselu, Yekuselu, to the Oba of Benin. Just the same way they turned the Olu of Ushekiri to the Olu of Ori. They turned the Denya of Agbo to the Bay of Agbo. These are facts. These are facts. These are not stories that these are not just what we call wrong information. These are information that whosoever that wants to investigate should go and find out. They are historically documented. There was once upon a time, there was the Oba of Uselu. Yekuselu, that's the Oba that we had there. We had the Obi of the Denya of Agbo, and we had the Olu of Ishekiri. We didn't have the Olu of Wari. But under the Western region, because these three were brothers, and they come from the Yoruba, they have Yoruba origin. The Yoruba people who were in charge of Western region decided to prioritize them and give them preferences and make sure that they were officially recognized. That is what happened. So on this note, ladies and gentlemen, I want to reiterate again that His Imperial Majesty Rich Arisco Osebege JP is a great-great-great-grandson of Ogiamie Ekunwe. All right? His mother is from the Iyase of Udo. His father is from the Ogiamies Evian Ogiso royal dynasty. We should let this matter lie, because we called a press conference where we explicitly made clear all these informations. And we equally asked the Oba of Benin or the Benin Traditional Council led by Igbe and Co. if they were not satisfied with our informations, they should give us the family of Arisco Osebege JP. When we asked that question, they now twisted it that Arisco's father was an Ijoman. Even at that, they should tell us, they should give us the family in Ijoland where he comes from. On this note, ladies and gentlemen, GRO Sydney once more for STTS, the Sydney Table Talk Show. I would like to end up this issue here because, as a matter of fact, spending time replying information that we've already covered or we've already given explanations to by some, I don't know how to call them, by some egg-headed individuals like Olakoko. It's very, very unfortunate because we waste precious time in replying these people. You know, if we go to Ayiguayaro, the Oba of Benin will not succeed forever. One day, he's going to get the knock. Good evening, brothers and sisters. I wish you a new month.